Thanks for having me back, Marty. Really appreciate it. Hey everybody, triads. You've heard about them, right? Maybe you know a little bit about them, maybe you don't. Maybe you've heard about them from other people. Tomo's been talking about them, Brett, Marty, we're all talking about triads. Turns out triads are very, very impactful. In fact, I've been teaching guitar for a very long time. I don't think I've ever seen anything that has more impact on a player than learning triads, right? Once you put triads on the neck, you just sort of get to know how the instrument works. Life before triads is like this. You've got some open chords, maybe you know your bar chords, you can get around pretty well. You got the pentatonic scale, maybe you know a bunch of songs, right? But there are some parts of the neck that when you're playing, you look at them and there's nothing but just wood and dots, right? You don't see anything there. When you map triads to the fingerboard, all of that mystery goes away. Every single dark spot on the neck instantly gets brightened up, right? This is really powerful fretboard knowledge, and it doesn't come in any other way more effectively than the study of triads. But the good news is that this is not a complex task. It's not really hard to understand or hard to do. It just takes a little time. So we're going to zoom in. I'm going to show you how the chords that you already know have triads inside them. I'm going to break those out for you, show you how they map inside the chords you already know, and then I'm going to take a single chord and map it to the entire fretboard. Every single spot on the neck where you can play this chord, I'll show you how to do that. That is going to be the key. And once you get that key, you've got real fretboard freedom. You'll see what I mean. Let's zoom in and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, we're going to start with a little bit of theory, a very little bit, just so I can show you how triads are built. Here's an A major bar chord, E-shaped bar chord, root on the 5th fret. This chord comes from the A major scale. Here's that scale. Right, that's the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale in A. I'm going to play 3 notes from that scale, starting on the root here. But I'm going to play every other note. So instead of playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to play root, then the 3rd note of the scale, and then the 5th note of the scale. Root, 3, 5. This is the root, the 3rd, and the 5th note of the scale. These notes are A, C sharp, and E. A, C sharp, E. I'm going to put those on the screen here. A, C sharp, and E. This chord right here, this A major chord, let me show you what the notes are in this chord. Here's A, B, A, C sharp, E, and A. So even though we're playing 6 strings, there are only A's, C sharps, and E's in this chord. There are definitely duplicates, but we're really only playing 3 notes. This is a triad, right? A chord with 3 notes in it. Let's do it for a different chord. Here, let's pick G. Here's a sort of a normal, everyday open G chord. I'm going to put the G major scale here as well. I'm going to play those every other 3 notes, starting on that root, the 3rd, and the 5th note of the scale, right? Root, 3, 5. These notes are G, B, and D. Let's go to our G chord. Tell you what the notes of the chord are. G, B, D, G, D, B. So again, 6 strings ringing out, but we're only playing 3 notes. This is a triad, right? So you can see where this is going. Any major or minor chord, this is exactly how they're structured. They're made from those scales. They're using the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. Let's do one more. How about this C chord, which we all know and love, right? Open C. I'm going to play the C major scale right here on the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I'm going to play every other note starting on that root, the 3rd, and the 5th of the scale. These notes are C, E, and G. Go back to our chord. You know what's going to happen here, right? C, E, G, C, E. So even though we're playing 5 strings, we're only playing 3 notes. This is a triad. So you can do this with any chord. Any major or minor chord, you can figure it out this way. Any chord you already know is more than likely a triad, right? So that's the point we're getting across here. Now we're going to take this chord and I'm going to break it down a little bit more. Since triads have 3 notes in them, they situate really well on sets of 3 strings. Okay, so I'm going to divide the guitar up into sets of 3 strings. We've got this one on the top, that's G, B, and E. We've got this one, that's the D, G, and B strings. Then we've got this one, that's A, D, and G. And then the last one is E, A, D, right? So we've got 4 sets of these 3 strings. We're going to put triads on each one of these sets of strings. And we're going to do it using this C chord. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the notes from this chord. I'm going to play this chord, but I'm only going to play the notes on the top 3 strings, right? So I don't need all these fingers, just this one, right? This happens to be G, C, E. That's enough for a C chord. So this is a full C chord. It's just a triad. It's just those 3 notes, no duplicates, right? Now I'm going to do the same thing, play that chord, but I'm only going to play the notes on this set of strings. Okay? That is E, G, and C. That's enough for a C chord as well. You know what's going to happen here. I'm going to play the same chord, but I'm only going to play the notes on these 3 strings. This is C, E, and G. So far where I know 1 C chord, I've got 1, 2, 3 triads that work. Let's go to this last set of strings. Now on the C chord, we usually don't play this string, right? We usually play it with just these 5 strings. But there happens to be a G, which is in the chord right here. So there's a C chord. So here in a spot where I knew 1 C chord, now I have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty cool, right? This shape, this place on the neck for C contains 4 full triads. That's pretty cool, right? Now I happen to know that this also is a C chord, right? I got my bar chords down. Here's my A string bar chord. If I was to play an A and just move it up, I've got A, B, C, right? So I know this is also a C chord. You know what's going to happen here. I'm going to take this chord and I'm going to divide it up into these sets of strings. Just playing this chord, right, with the top 3 strings. This is C, E, and G. So that's enough for a C chord, right? The next set of strings right here, this happens to be G, C, E. That's enough for a C chord. So I've got another one here. Now check this out. On this set of 3 strings, I have C, G, and C. So the C is duplicated here. The note that's missing is E. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this low C note, and I'm just going to go up 3 notes, 2 full whole steps. C, D, and here's my E. I'm going to keep these 2 notes the same. So now I have another C chord right here. There happens to be a C sitting right here on the low E string. So I've got another one right here. So in this spot, where I knew this 1 C bar chord, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more C triads, right? Like I said, I know my bar chords. I happen to know that I've got a C major bar chord way up here on the 8th fret. It's an E shape, right? So if I had an E chord and just moved it up, E, F, G, A, B, C, I've got this here. You know exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to play the notes from this chord on each one of these sets of 3 strings and see what happens. Here are my top 3. This is E, G, C. That's enough for a full C chord. Now I'm going to play this set of 3 strings. This is C, E, G. That's enough for a triad, right? That's all the information I need for a C chord. Now I'm going to play this set of 3 strings. This is G, C, E. That's enough for a C chord as well. Now this last set of strings, look what happens. I've got duplicates here. C, G, C. I don't have an E. I'm going to do the same thing I did last time. I'm going to take this low C. I'm just going to move it up 3 notes, 2 whole steps. C, D, E. Keep the other 2 notes the same. And I've got another C chord here. So in this position, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So here I am at the 12th fret, where I used to know this C chord and this one. I had 3, that was pretty good. Now I have 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And here on the 12th fret, this whole thing repeats again. And this one That's kind of hard to play. My fingers are a little too fat for that, but at least I can see it up here, right? So what I've just done is I've taken C, the C chord, I've divided it up into triads, right? I only needed C, E, and G notes, and I've mapped it to the entire fretboard. So now no matter where I am, I can play a C chord, right? You can do this with every chord you already know, and this is just a demonstration of how knowing triads and how they lay out on the neck can really free you up, so there are no real dark spots on the neck anymore. In other words, when I want to play a C chord, I have choices all over the entire fretboard. That's pretty powerful. Okay, so every chord you already know has triads inside of it, right? We just took some of those really popular chords, those really well-known chords, and we broke them apart, right? And then we took that C chord and we mapped it to the entire fretboard. Just imagine if you did that for every chord. C, D, G, A, B, all of them, right? You will have been to every single part of the neck and played every single chord in every single key in every single position. That's really powerful. Like if you just do that once in your life, just once, I promise you, your relationship to this instrument and your capability and your confidence will go through the roof. And like I said before, all those dark spots will disappear. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you found this interesting. I highly recommend you spending some time on this. Marty, thanks so much. I can't thank you enough for having me back on the channel. I really appreciate it. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you next time.